Welcome back to Morning Glory, 23 minutes past 6. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10. Rafe Heydel-Mankoo is here with us as well. We're going through the papers. Just a bit of breaking news for you before we carry on. This is an incident from last night that we've just learned about. Armed police have swarmed Plymouth after a person was stabbed in the street, and police continue to search for the suspected attacker. An entire region of West Hoe in Plymouth has been cordoned off, basically. Police and emergency services rushed to the scene just before 9 p.m. last night after a person was found seriously injured in the street. A lot of eyewitnesses talking about a large amount of blood on the street, it would seem. As far as we understand it, the police are still searching for the suspected attacker. We'll bring you up to date on that. No idea really what it is, no idea if it's terror related, as we would say nowadays, but we will keep you abreast of all of that as it happens. Rafe, let's talk about the Daily Telegraph story, because 1 in 12 people in London is now an illegal migrant. It's a fascinating story, right? This is a study commissioned by Thames Water, which has been obtained by the Telegraph under Freedom of Information style laws.
Yeah, that's the first thing to say, how ludicrous and outrageous it is that this information isn't being supplied to us by the Home Office.
No.
It's being supplied by Thames Water. And actually, we at the New Culture Forum have said for a while, if you want a proper, accurate assessment of the population of this country, go to utilities companies.
That's a very good point,
Don't look at the government sources, unfortunately. And we've had to turn to a water company to find out that 1 in 12 London people are illegal migrants. That's as many as perhaps 600,000 people. And of course, that places huge demands on our public services, on housing, on A&E, for example. The implications of all that, because nobody in government is planning for that amount of people.
Well,
right? So this isn't.
Sorry to interrupt you. The chairman of think tank Migration Watch, who comes onto this show on a regular basis, says a population underestimate on this scale has colossal implications for local authority planning, utilities, housing. Will all come under severe pressure. I mean, I've been saying this, and you probably have as well, for a good many years, that, there's a reason why it looks a lot more crowded in London than it used to, because it is. There's a reason why you can't get a doctor's appointment, because there's more people here. There's a reason why you can't get to see your GP, or you can't get an NHS appointment. The waiting lists are getting longer. There's a reason why there's traffic on the streets, and you can't get on a train, and the underground's always busy. Because there's more people here. Exactly.
Plus, on top of that, you've also had reports that the NHS are actually prioritising undocumented migrants over the British population, which is another outrage, of course. And now we can see the scale of the problem. If they're prioritising 600,000 people in this country, in London, over the population, why people aren't getting the service from the NHS that they should be getting. And people know for full well, you order something on a food delivery app, you order an Uber, and the person on the photograph of the person on the phone is not the same as the person who's delivering your food items.
No, of course.
Because this is the underground economy. And as a French politician said many years ago, and I've said for years now, it's not rocket science. If you want to stop illegal migration, do what the French do and get tough on the black market economy. Because that's why people are overstaying their visas. That's why they're coming here. They can go to the curry houses, they can do the delivery company apps and so forth. Cut down clamp down on the employers and clamp down on the rogue landlords who allow 10 people to live in one room in a house.
And many of these people, as the report says, are not necessarily those who have come on the small boats. They're people who have come here legally but then just overstayed. For example, I mean, you mentioned the guy in Nottingham, the Nottingham killer. He was, of course, originally coming to this country as a student, and then he just never left. And so he came to study for 2 or 3 years, never went home. And there doesn't seem to be any checks or balances on how many people do actually leave the country. When they talk about net migration figures, they don't really know who's leaving the country and who's staying.
Yeah, it's still remarkable to me that some countries, log everybody when they leave the country. We don't do that. I don't know why we don't have that system in place in this country. And you're quite right. And of course, the thing is that the more immigration you get to this country, people keep saying, people who are pro-immigration say, oh, but these are people coming on visas, don't worry.
That's fine.
It doesn't really change the figures that much because they're going to leave. Well, actually, we know they overstay their visas. So the argument that actually student visas isn't really really a big dent on the nation because they do go away. A large number don't leave.
Yes, and isn't it funny how those people who are very pro-migration and pro kind of, globalist will always make these excuses as though, you're somehow in the wrong because they're so naive, these people. You would want to sell them, some swampland in Florida and go, here's a million square feet for you to go and live in Florida, and they'd pay you and happily move there, because these people seem to believe everything that they're told. And again, it comes back to questioning the government, questioning the Home Office, questioning public figures who tell you this stuff, which is actually untrue. I mean, migrant crossings, we've got a story in the Mail today. Crossings in the Channel have passed 1,000 already, and we're only 3 weeks into 2025.
Yeah, well, you say some people are naive, that's true, but I've got a good feeling that a lot of people who are pro-migration don't really care about migrants, they hate Britain.
Yeah.
This is what Peter Hitchens has said as well, when they were all in favour, when he was on the left, they were in favour of mass migration, not because of the people coming over here, but because of the impact it would have on this country, such as the visceral hatred many people on the left have for this country. But yes, the evidence here again, if Keir Starmer cancelled the Rwanda scheme, it was inevitable that you were going to attract more people. Rishi Sunak was proved right when he said people are going to be queuing up to cross the channel once they know that Rwanda is off the table.
Yeah.
I never thought you needed to do Rwanda. I thought you could use a British overseas territory. But the point is, now that after all the struggle to get it into place, what was the harm of just keeping it there as a deterrent? And now, of course, I think Starmer's got egg on his face because he's going to come up against just the same problems that Sunak did, but he's even less equipped.
Yes.
And that's saying something, to
It
be
is.
less equipped than Sunak in tackling the issue.
And looking at Donald Trump, and we'll talk about him in more detail a little bit later on, people were saying to me just this week, having already had him get stuck into this mass deportation program, people are actually now deporting themselves. There is now evidence that people are going back across the border into Mexico because they don't want to be imprisoned, they don't want to be deported in a way that they can't control, so they'd rather just not bother. So immediately you've got a deterrent. Look what happens. People start going back to where they came from.
Yeah, just as we saw here with people leaving this country to go to Ireland after the Rwanda bill passed for that very same reason.
Exactly.
These things do work as deterrents. You may never actually have to do much with it, but the deterrent is there. But I think and hope, that the great reset, if I can use it, of Donald Trump in America, embarking upon the biggest program of mass deportations in American history, will actually move the Overton window in this country, because we are now the outlier. Europe is actually marked far closer to Trump's America when it comes to this. You've got the Swedes, talking about paying people to go back where they came from, not just asylum seekers.
You've got the Germans shutting their borders.
The Germans shutting their borders. The
borders.
Poles have been allowed not to take any refugees in. The Swedes even want naturalised citizens to be able to return home. We are the outlier here.
The Italians are also stopping and coming.
We're the outlier, and I think it's only going to be a matter of time before the Overton window moves and we can discuss properly having a real programme of mass deportations.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about that coming up next with our guest Kevin Tripp. But also I'm going to leave you with this thought before we move into some other stories about cabinet wars that are going on between Rachel Reeves and Ed Miliband and all sorts of people. It might come as a surprise to some couples, it says here in the Daily Mail, but the secret to a satisfying life could be to get married. Now, I don't know whether you are married, I don't know whether you have a view on it, but I just want you to take that in and think about it. According to researchers, basically, people who are married and in committed relationships have higher life satisfaction on average than those who are single. I'm just going to say one thing. I just think they've given up. And so, in fact, it's not so much that they are happier, they just think they're happier because they can't be bothered doing anything else. But we'll come back to that.